everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, we are going to be reviewing, discussing, gushing about Fourth Wing. This is the book that kind of took the book world by storm recently. I don't think we've seen such hype like this since really Percy Jackson and Harry Potter, honestly. I mean, it's just amazing. As someone who works, at a bookstore, I haven't really seen this amount of people come in looking for this one book, hearing people say, oh, this is the book that got me back into reading, or I want to read more, and this is the book that got me into reading. I think that's kind of phenomenal. I'm all for people reading more, even if I don't always agree with their book taste. Calling Hoover. But, I was hesitant to read this book. I love dragons. We know this. I love dragons. And I will read anything that has to do with dragons, but then that also means I'm also going to be a little bit more critical when it comes to it. This book, even before the hype, was on my TBR, and like, oh, dragons need to read, and then all the hype happened. And whenever that happens, I become extra cautious. I'm like, oh God. Like, is it going to live up to the hype, or am I going to be so absolutely just heartbroken that it doesn't? You know what I mean? So really, my friend Gina, she's the one who pushed me into it. She read the book. She's like, oh my God, you have to read it. She would not stop hounding me. I know she's watching this. So, Gina, I'm calling you out. If it weren't for her, I really wouldn't have read it as early as I did. In fact, it probably might still be on my TBR pile. I would have eventually gotten around to it just so that I could be like, okay, let me see what all the hype is about, And I did. And yes, it did live up to the hype. At least in my opinion. I know a lot of people just like, oh, this book was awful. I loved it, actually. I thought it was kind of awesome. It really was. I mean, you're following Violet, and not only is she, a female character, she also suffers from a chronic illness. So everyone around her kind of treats her like she's a porcelain doll, like she's fragile, like she's going to break. Even from the very beginning, it's like, I'll try to sneak you into the scribe quadrant. All her life, she grew up training to be part of the scribe quadrant because of her chronic illness. She, much like everyone else, thought it was too debilitating for her to be anything more than just a scribe, right? Her mother pushes her into it. So by the time the book starts, she's already had like a crash course training in how to be a writer. Because when she goes to this school, it is deadly. It is dangerous. You might have a school, 200 people enter into the writer's contract. Only 75 will survive to graduation. It is deadly. It is dangerous, this school. And it's really cool. So she has to really get out of her head, and she has to stop thinking that she is fragile, that she is glass, that she's going to break, And a lot of this has to do with the character dynamics around her. Mainly the two love interests. You've got Dane, and then you have Xaden. So Dane is her childhood friend. She has had a crush on him all her life. And he is one of the ones that treats her like she's fragile, like she's going to break. He coddles her. Okay, coddling her is not going to help her survive this very, very deadly college that you keep trying to sneak around. It's just like, no, I'm here. Like, let me do this, I can do it. But he doesn't even want to try, and that kind of gets really annoying and irritating. Then you have Xaden. He's a little bit of a dick to her. But you know what? He doesn't coddle her. He very much pushes her, and he challenges her. And you know what? She rises to the occasion, and she does challenge him, and she fights him, and she trains. And you know what? throughout the course of the novel, she has to push back against this I'm less than idea, you know, that I am weaker than. Like, no, she just has to find a different way, you know. She has a chronic illness. Sometimes it can be debilitating. Sometimes it limits the way she can do things. And no, she can't do things the same way everyone else does. But that doesn't mean she can't do them. And I think that, for me, was one of the greatest takeaways with this book. You know, this character growth from her. She has to find out-of-the-box ways to survive the challenges everyone else just uses their muscle and wit for. Like, she really has to use her mind to do this. And you get to see the way her mind works really early on, you know, when she has to cross that parapet. And I will say this, it was a lot. I understand why some people couldn't get through it. That those first opening chapters when she's crossing the parapet, she is recounting history. So in this action, you know, I kind of have to applaud Yaros for doing it. I really do hate when author just like slam a whole bunch of world building in one moment, but it worked here because it didn't lessen the tension. You got a lot of history and world building in this moment, but you also got to see the way Violet's mind works. So this is what she does. In order to ground herself in the moment, in order to calm herself, you know, to find her center, she recounts things that she learned when she was studying to be a scribe. And I think that that's really good. It gives you an insight into how she works. It gives you some history here. It gives you some world building. And it didn't lessen the tension in that opening chapter. However, I do understand why some people couldn't get through it. It was a lot. It was a lot of information all at once, which is why I typically don't like when authors do that. But it worked in this case because Violet's the one that's doing it and she's the one who's recounting, it's not just part of the narrative. You're not forgetting that, oh, she's on a thin parapet crossing, arms like this so that she doesn't fall to her death. You know, you're not forgetting that there are people dying in front of her. There's, you know, dangerous people behind her. None of that is forgotten. Yaros breaks up that world building by doing that. And you know what? I love the world building. I love the pacing. I love the overall characterization and the character growth. I even like the slow burn romance here between her and Xaden. And above all, I love the dragons. They were phenomenal. You've got Tarn and Adara, and they are just the best. And I love them so much. It was so good. It really was so good. To me, it did live up to the hype. It is a little slow, right until she crosses the parapet, and then it goes, boop, skyrockets. That's what the tension does. It just, because again, she's in a very deadly, dangerous dragon college to become a dragon rider. Very limited number of spots that people are going to kill each other. And they're going to kill her because she has a target on her back because of who her mother is, a great dragon general. So, it's a lot of tension, it's a lot of action, it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend this book. I can see why it just took the book world by storm. I really can. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. So yes, Fourth Wing does get 5 out of 5 stars from me. I really did love it. I really was nervous it wasn't going to live up to the hype, and I really was just scared that I was going to hate this book, and I'm so happy that I don't. In fact, for Halloween, I'm going to be Violet. Violence, as Xaden calls her. So, I'm really excited for that. Yes. Thank you all for tuning in. I will, of course, include links on where you can buy the book in the description below, and where you can support me on any of my social media platforms. You can also support me here by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with all your book-loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.